Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rank and File Sports with Jonah and Connor. Today we're going to be continuing our schedule previews with the Oregon Ducks. We'll be releasing these videos in order of our way too early top 25, so please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss your favorite team's video, as well as our official team-by-team predictions over the summer. So taking a look at the schedule, Oregon's got 7 home games and 5 away games this year. And overall, it looks really easy. I mean, aside from the Penn State game, nothing else really sticks out to me. So we have the schedule difficulty set only at a 3.5 out of 10.
Oregon Ducks start their season at home against Montana State. Montana State might be a very good team in the FCS, but talent gap between Montana State and Oregon is just going to be too great. Oregon Ducks are going to take care of business there. Following week against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's coming off of a really bad season, and I don't think it's getting much better considering that Ollie Gordon's going to the draft and their super senior quarterback is gone. So we don't think that Oklahoma State will have much of a chance here. Then going to Northwestern, it's probably still going to be a pretty easy game for Oregon, just factoring in the travel and maybe some bad weather conditions, just because the game will be in Chicago. Then rivalry game against Oregon State. Rivalry game, you never know what's going to happen. Last year, Oregon took care of business at Oregon State, so overall, we think they'll probably take care of business at home. And then the big game of their season going to Penn State. We do think Penn State will be favored in this game. It's going to be a very highly anticipated game, probably between two top five teams. But Penn State's defense is looking like it will be really solid going into next season. And factoring that in with it being a home game for Penn State, Oregon having to travel pretty far in it, and very high likelihood of it being a noon game, I think it's all setting itself up for Penn State to have a huge signature win against Oregon. So Oregon will probably end up with a loss going into their first bye week.
Yeah, that first bye week is honestly kind of late in my opinion. Most teams normally have it after 3 or 4 games. So a little bit unfortunate that they got stuck with that after the Penn State game instead of before. But out of that, they get Indiana. Obviously, the Hoosiers did go on a run this season and make the college football playoffs. Next year, the schedule sets up not terribly, but they're going to be losing a decent amount of talent. It'll be interesting to see if Kurt Signetti can keep this Indiana team right around 10 wins. Uh, but overall, we feel like Oregon is going to be significantly more talented. And with how strong their home field advantage is, we have Oregon at about an 80% chance to take down Indiana. Then going on the road to Rutgers, really far distance to travel from Eugene all the way to Piscataway, New Jersey. Still, Rutgers, I mean, they've been on the up and up for the last couple years, but just nowhere near as talented as Oregon. So the Ducks should roll in that one as well. And then right before that second bye week, they have Wisconsin coming to town. This one, we also like Oregon to take care of business. Wisconsin's going to have a solid team. Just I don't think that they can compete on the road at Oregon.
Coming out of their second bye week, Oregon will be going to Iowa. We have this at about an 80% chance for Oregon to walk away with the win, but I do think that this will be one of the more interesting games for Oregon this season, considering how easy their schedule appears to be. Playing at Iowa is something that's a little bit hard to do. We've seen some big teams fall in games to Iowa when Iowa's playing at home, like Ohio State a couple seasons ago. But overall, we do think that Oregon should be the stronger team in this case and will walk away with the win. Then at home against Minnesota, Talent gap is again the big deal here. Oregon's probably the better team on both sides of the ball, so they'll walk away with the win at home. USC, interesting game, old Pac-12 rivalry, um, but kind of the same thing. USC might be on a little bit of a down year, but with some good young guys, they'll probably keep it a competitive game. But with it being at home, we're having Oregon at around an 80% chance. And then ending their season at Washington, a big rivalry game. It should be interesting. I don't know about Jonah, but I think that Washington is going to be a better team than they were last year. Last year, they were right around a 500 team. I think they'll be a little bit more competitive record wise. Who knows? But competition level, I think, will be raised for Washington. So I do think that this will be a good game, but I do think Oregon will be a favorite in this game and should walk away with the win.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That Washington game, if I had to pick one other game where Oregon could maybe trip up, that'd probably be it. Especially last week of the season, maybe you get caught looking ahead to the Big Ten championship, assuming they do as well as we think they're going to. But I mean, aside from that one, the only game that sticks out to me here is Penn State. It looks like a really easy schedule for Oregon. So really, I'm just looking at that Penn State game. If they get through that, they have a really good chance to go undefeated in back-to-back regular seasons.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Penn State game is the one game on their schedule that they will be focusing in on, that will make or break their season, um, for if they're going to go undefeated or if they will have that one loss. I do think the Iowa game and the Washington game are two games to look at that might be interesting, but overall, I think the ceiling is another undefeated season. Um, but the floor is maybe two losses, being that Penn State game, and then maybe losing either to Iowa or Washington on the road. But overall, I do think that Oregon is set up pretty well to have another great season.
Looking at last season, obviously Oregon did go 13-0 until they met the buzzsaw that was Ohio State during the playoffs in the Rose Bowl. Now, based on all of those percentages we had on that last screen, we do have a projected win total of 9.65 and 2.35. So it actually likes Oregon to be a little bit under 10 wins. And, it makes sense just based on what we had there. Penn State being slight, or them being slight underdogs to Penn State, as well as the Washington game, the Iowa game, both on the road. And then our prediction, we're going to go with 11-1. I really think the only loss there is going to be Penn State, and they'll take care of business everywhere else. The official over-under is set at 10.5 wins, and it's a direct even split, -113 odds on both sides. So Vegas is really torn on whether or not Oregon's going to go 10-2 or 11-1. We like the 11-1, so that's what we're going to go ahead and go with for our early projection. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video tomorrow.